Hi guys, today's video is this the biggest difference between Britain and America?
Is what?
I don't know, whether him sleeping on the bed?
I don't know. We're going to find out. I'm ready to find out what the biggest difference is. Maybe.
I got no idea.
Because is he asking us or is he telling us? Is it a
So
rhetorical question?
Oh. I was going to say that. But that would sound clever if I said that.
Let's rewind. What were you going to say?
Do you rate that? That's rhetorical.
Oh, I never thought about that. Oh,
I think it
never thought about that.
Oh yeah, should we find out what it is?
Just for people who think I've accidentally forgot to edit that. I didn't edit it on purpose because some people are going to think I was about to edit that.
Are you ready to find out what it is?
Yeah, but what we got on Patreon?
Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get us to 170,000 subscribers.
Yeah, we hit 168 last night.
Yeah. On Patreon tonight, there is going to be Five Guys.
Yep.
It's going to be on the channel tomorrow.
Yep.
Ted Lasso is the first episode is going to be on Patreon tomorrow.
Yep.
And then, yeah, so if you could sign up to Patreon, that would be really amazing for us. Thank you very much. And if you can't, well, we'll sit on the channel tomorrow. Yeah. Let's go. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, is this the biggest difference between Britain and America?
Is what? Is what a big difference?
We're about to find out. Have some patience.
Hello, this video is sponsored by BritBox, the premier streaming service for Britain's most beloved TV shows. I'm Lawrence
Lawrence's
Brown,
links in the
and I'm
description,
on a
by the
quest
way.
to
Wait till
uncover
after
all
that.
of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to two things: size and history.
Ooh. American
Now,
size,
if you're a long-time
British
subscriber
history.
of this channel, you may remember a few months ago that I did a video proclaiming the United States to be a small country. America can't be that massive. But there
It
is
is
one equally
massive.
small problem with this assertion. It completely and utterly a little bit contradicts my pinned tweet, which reads, "The biggest difference between Britain and America is that Americans think 100 years is a long time and the British think 100 miles is a long way."
I love that quote.
It's a profound quote.
It's so
The big
true.
question that I want to answer today is this: is it even true? Well, before I shock you
I think
into the
it
next
is.
century.
I think it is. I think that is such an honest tweet.
I can't say it's true for everyone. But I think majority.
Oh yeah,
majority.
Everyone's different.
But I think it sums up the two countries.
It's just a
Very
simple
nicely.
thing. A long trip is like, oh, I've got to go all the way down south this weekend. It's a couple-hour drive. Whereas in America, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna hop over to another state. It's a 5-6 hour drive, and they're used to that.
Yeah.
And then whereas 100 years, obviously
We've got more
Britain's got
history.
more history. You guys have so much history put in a short space of time.
We've got a longer span of history.
Yeah, but just more, like, a long span. Said it perfect. So I think that is so true. I like, and it's put very easy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not complicated.
It's not complicated, and it just works.
Ah!
So, ooh,
Sorry.
that's all right.
If you are new to this channel and love hearing comparisons between my two countries and you haven't had a chance to subscribe, do that now.
Same here. Would appreciate
In the
it.
meantime, let's break up that pithy quote into two halves. In the first half, I'm going to take a look at the assertion that us Americans think 100 years is a long time. The implication being, of course, that we, the British, don't. So why is that? Well, present Lawrence can't answer that. Instead, I'm going to hand you over to Lawrence from 2 seconds from now. Thanks, past Lawrence. As you've probably figured out by now, I did not always reside in the United States.
Did you
For
not?
the first 20
Really?
years of my life, I grew up in a town on the east coast of England called Grimsby. And Grimsby is just your standard English town, which also happens to produce YouTube sensations.
Can
And like
can
most standard
confirm.
English
Been to
towns, it
Grimsby.
contains one or two visual reminders of how old
Yeah.
all of this is. Take, for example, the Grimsby Minster, a building that is located next to our shopping centre, what do we call it? Precinct. It dates
Yeah.
back to the 12th century. And there's a reason that I'm going high-pitched there outside of the usual ones. And that's because now that I've lived in the United States for almost 15 years, I myself look back at the age of some of Britain's buildings and nearly burst with excitement. Because in your average American town or city, you're not likely to find buildings that go back more than 300 to 400 years.
I suppose
This is
it's
probably
because
why
it's
Americans
it's different, isn't it? If you get
Yeah.
used to it not be like we see it all the time, you know what I mean? And we're like, oh yeah, that's just it's from whatever. But if you don't see it, you can go, wait, that's from that long ago.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
definitely.
It's a big thing if you don't see it often.
I've interacted with have always been so awestruck when I tell them things like, ooh, you know when I visited York and I went to the top of that tower on a hill in the middle of the road called Clifford's Tower and I nearly got knocked off by the wind. That was built in 1245, and that was only after an older version of it was destroyed by angry humans. And these are just some of the older British dwellings that I've personally visited. You go up to Scotland, to Orkney, where it's really cold, and there is a
cold everywhere in
homestead
Scotland.
called Nap of Howard. I hope I'm saying that right.
Oh, I could have a nap
It
on
is,
that.
and I'm not making this
Nap of
up.
Howard.
5,000 years old.
That's old.
Wow.
But on this side of the pond, there is a massive counterpoint to all of this. Old Native American buildings. Did you know that in New Mexico there is a historic, what is essentially apartment complex called...
Yeah, see, that's cool. That is very cool, and that's very historic. And it's, again, I don't know, if you want to tell us the dates on it, but they do, obviously we talk about Americans' history when it became America. There is so much more history on that piece of land from before America.
Yeah.
Because it was still there, but we're Native Americans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is cool. We've got to see that one day.
That is cool.
Definitely.
Called Taos Pueblo. And this is one of the oldest continuously inhabited communities in the United States. It was built possibly as long ago as 1,000 years, making it perhaps older than Clifford's Tower. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, Native American history predates US history. Isn't that cheating? Maybe, but
I don't think
technically
so.
Britain itself was only formed in the early 18th century, so you could argue that Clifford's Tower predates British history. That said, in most towns and cities in the United States, you won't easily find structures as old as this, which is why Americans were probably surprised when I told them that the signing of the Magna Carta, which is a royal charter of rights, signed in 1215, may have been witnessed by someone who is still alive today. And when I say somebody, I mean a tree. This yew tree in Runnymede, England is said to have been present at the sealing of the Magna Carta and might be as old as 2,500 years.
Tree.
Which brings me on to my next
That's a
counterpoint.
fat tree and an old tree.
The world's oldest tree is not in England or Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland. It's in Eastern California. You see, us humans have a tendency to forget that life exists outside of our own species, and that this Great Basin bristlecone pine is older than the pyramids.
Wow.
Not to mention that America is also a place where they find a lot of the dinosaurs. And I'm not just talking about the Senate chamber. Okay, fine, but to keep it in terms that we understand, let's talk once again about humans. You see, in addition to old buildings and trees, Britain has entire historic towns. And they don't come much more historic than the mighty Colchester. Because Colchester, originally known as Camalodunum, is said to be the oldest recorded town in Britain.
Oh wow,
How
I didn't
old
know
is
that.
it? Well, by the order of a few decades, it's older than Jesus Christ. The old buildings and walls that you see in the town today were added by the Romans, who invaded over the next couple of 100 years.
Wow.
And again, to me,
Do you know what I was
that
going to say?
is
The city I was
mind-blowing.
thinking of was, which I think is a well-known one, Bath. I was thinking Bath. I know they've got do you know, I think it was Romans who have they used to have a whole massive bathing pools where they used to go and bathe.
I didn't know that.
In Bath. I'm pretty sure I may be making this up. Now I've got, because you don't know this, I'm like, oh, I may make this up. I think we've got loads of them, old school ones in Bath.
Oh,
Obviously, not as old as Colchester, obviously, which I didn't know, but...
Blowing, because for the last 15 years I've lived in a country where famously the first attempt at an English settlement occurred as recently as the late 16th century, which, if you ran a clock of the Earth's history, was a mere few seconds ago. But I hope you're ready for another counterpoint, because here comes one.
I love the graphic every
Here
time.
in the US, I've personally visited a complex and once highly populated historic settlement that was built not long after Colchester.
Okay.
Cahokia Mounds, right here in Illinois, was first devised in the year 600, with its famous green mounds constructed by its native inhabitants 200 years later. And at the height of the town's popularity, it had more people living in it than London. That's London then, not London now.
I'm gonna say,
That would be
yeah.
mental.
Wow.
Of course,
That's
London
pretty cool,
now
though.
makes for a great place to film a TV series, as seen in the likes of Luther, EastEnders, and Silent.
Get into that, and I spotted it.
Oh yeah, well done. Now we don't want to lose Lawrence Horse's ad revenue, so go and check him out if you want to see this ad. But wait till after this video. It is a BritBox one, so if you're interested in that, go and check Lawrence's video out after. Go to 6 minutes, watch the ad. But we'll see you later in a second.
And so we reach the second half of the quote. The British think 100 miles is a long way.
Which I think is true.
The implication there being that Americans think nothing of such a distance. And largely, this is true. I have family members who live about 200 miles from me, and we drive down to them every time there's a holiday. Just because the trains are crap, but also because that's just a normal holiday commute for some Americans.
Okay.
Who may even choose to go further than that and have little to no qualms. But then it got me thinking, there are some Americans who like to run. I'm looking at you, Forrest. Yeah, run. Not just to their mama's house, but from one coast of the United States to the other. And we're not just talking in the movies. There are actual humans who wake up one morning and go, I've got a plan. I'm going to run across the United States
fair
like
play.
a maniac.
Screw that,
If you want
fair
an
play.
idea of just how wide this country is. The fastest person to ever do it is a man called Pete Kostelnik. And even for him, it took 42 days to run from San Francisco to New York City. And as somebody myself who hasn't run since 1998, that sounds like an eternity. But it got me thinking about the most well-known long-distance run you can do in Britain. This is from John O'Groats in northern Scotland down to Land's End in the extreme end of Cornwall. And the quickest that anybody's ever run that distance is just over 9 days. And it got me thinking,
That's a
either
big
Britain
difference.
has really slow runners, or counterpoint, the distance from north to south is much longer than I imagined.
Don't be wrong, I didn't think it would be 9 days. I suppose, yeah, because I'm only thinking England, kind of, not thinking Scotland. But then this is where I think...
And also, you think we drive from Portsmouth to Rotherham.
Yeah,
It takes 5 hours in the car.
3.5.
What? It does not.
About
It takes 5 hours.
4 hours max. Yeah, when you stop off loads, yeah.
You're talking Cornwall, you're talking the very corner, so we've come already a big difference. You're thinking Rotherham is like the south of Yorkshire.
but
So you think
I
about
know.
all the north.
Oh, I get you, definitely.
And that is in the car.
I know, it can be quite far.
It can.
But my counterpoint is he's including the top of Scotland. And although I know a lot of people do travel from Scotland to England and Scotland, I mean, it's a lot less people do the long drives into Scotland and just stay in England and then Scotland, stay in Scotland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot less people doing long journeys, whereas in the US, a lot of people going state to state and a lot more people doing long journeys.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just so confused.
Smash that like button, guys.
Because first we have to acknowledge that in this very country, most people, like me, don't run. In fact, this is America, land of the automobile. Most people drive.
That's
So in the
mad
interest
highways.
of distance,
They are,
what
aren't
is
they?
the longest that somebody can drive in this country while always remaining on the same interstate? The answer? Interstate 90, which runs from the east coast to the west at a distance of just over
3,000
3,000
miles.
miles. For comparison, that is longer than taking a flight from Manchester Airport in England to Bangor Airport in the state of Maine. And do you know how I know that? Because that was my first ever flight.
Wow,
And when you're
that's mad,
flying
though.
over
That
nothing
is
but
mad.
a giant pond for 8 hours, it can feel like an eternity. So have fun on I-90. Oh, and if you're looking for a counterpoint on this particular one, you'll equally be waiting until the end of time, because I don't have one. Because the longest motorway in Britain is the M6, which clocks in at a paltry 231
Well, that's nowhere
miles.
near, is it?
But it's worth pointing out that Interstate 90 doesn't even represent the longest distance between two cities in the continental United States. To do that, you'd have to travel from Point Arena, California, all the way to West Quoddy Head. That's a real place in the state of Maine. In
Okay.
total, that distance is 3,527 miles, which brings us back to John
Screw
O'Groats
that.
to Land's End, which, while nowhere as long as its American counterpart, is still 837 miles.
That's still a lot.
Which is about
That
a
is a
quarter
lot.
the American distance that I just mentioned. Remember, the United States is approximately 40 times the size of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, it's quite big. I suppose
And
we're thin, aren't we,
counterpoint,
and
while
long.
Britain might be lacking in the girth department, it makes up for it with pretty decent length. Get your minds out of the gutter. And so, in conclusion, I would have to say that my pinned tweet is sort of correct. Americans do occasionally think that 100 years is a long time, until they think about it for a moment. This whole country is filled with ancient history, whether we're talking about human or natural.
That's cool.
And the
Very
UK,
cool.
That is
while
very
its people, my people, might be mad at me for consistently pointing out that it is in fact smaller than 11 different United States, it is also bigger than some of them,
Yeah,
and longer
some of
than
them.
most of them. Probably. I haven't done the maths. So it simply remains for me to return to my Twitter account at LostInThePondUS and share this video beneath my pinned tweet as a pretty solid counterpoint. Until next time, that's it for this episode. You can also follow me on Threads at Lauren.
I was going,
No,
wait.
I think he He summed up his point.
I think he summed up his point, and I feel like I'm still of the same opinion. On general, it's correct.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way it sums up the both
Because
countries.
it's a good way to sum it up, and it's not that deep
No.
where you think, where you actually have to think about it. And it's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just easy.
It's just easy.
Yeah.
So I like your tweet, Lawrence. I like your video of a counterpoint to it as well. A lot of counterpoints in there. If you enjoyed Lawrence's video,
You're
go
gonna
and
be
check
thinking
him out.
PowerPoint forever, aren't you?
Yeah, I could do a counterpoint to that.
Could you?
Yeah, and subscribe to us, not just Lawrence.
Yeah, like and subscribe to
Would
our video,
appreciate it.
please. And what should they do?
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.